Pacific FC went under a season of a major regression and a step in the wrong direction in 2024, and it really worries me for the season ahead in 2025, as this side managed to finish in 5th place on 34 points, and yes, still finished in that pivotal playoff spot in the 4-5 matchup. But the scary thing was, in their record, in the stats, they took a major step in the wrong direction, and it was a season of regression compared to previous. As yes, they had a record of 9 wins, 7 draws, 12 losses, but when it came down to the key stats, when it came down to goals, they truly struggled. Having scored 27 goals across 28 games, having your leading goal scorer in Dario Zanata only finish on 5 goals, and also the scariest stat of all, having 15 fewer goals than the previous year. This Pacific FC side struggled to score goals. They struggled to put games away. They struggled to give their back line a rest, and it didn't help them in 2024. And it needs to be a major improvement in 2025 if they want to get back to where they were, if they want to get back to where this club believes they should be, where that is title aspirations, winning league titles, getting back to CPL champions. And with that goal scoring formula last season, they definitely are nowhere near it. And yes, they finished in a playoff spot. Yes, they gave themselves a chance. But with that goal scoring, with that front line from last season, it just wasn't going to happen. But they've lost a lot of that front line. They've undergone a rebuild. But they've lost players who were still CPL-proven goal scorers with experience, and it just didn't click in 2024. So it'll be very interesting to look and see how this team changes tactically and how this team manages to score goals in 2025. But the reason they were able to make the playoffs, the reason they were able to finish with so many points and get so many wins was simply down to an incredible back five. When I talk about back five, I mean the back four and goalkeeper, because they were incredible. Only allowing 32 goals across a 28 game season, holding this team in and making incredible performances with that spine, with that back five. And when their team couldn't score, their back line didn't allow goals. They continued to hold on through very low scoring performances, 2 results, 2 wins, 2 draws, and be able to hold them in throughout the season and be able to get them through to the playoffs. And it's thanks to that pivotal back five under James Merriman, who basically built that team last season off a incredible back five who were able to hold on, have very strong performances, and defend very well and in a very low block, and they did it extremely well under James Merriman, a young Canadian coach. And it'll be very interesting because now Pacific have undergone their very first true rebuild under James Merriman. And it's been a very interesting rebuild because 3 of that pivotal back five from last season in 2024 have left, have gone on, and have departed from Pacific FC, which is a major reason why this offseason worries me and why this club worries me heading into 2025, as they have lost the best goalkeeper in the CPL, in my opinion, a young, talented Canadian goalkeeper in Emil Gazdov, who leaves the CF Montreal, but more importantly in 2024 was a major reason why this side finished so well in 2024. Keeping them in games, making terrific saves, show-stopping saves, camera saves, and just having that winning, calming experience even from a young age, and showed how good Emil Gazdov truly is. But more importantly, it came on that back line. 2 players who departed who were winners, who with loads of experience and CPL experience in general, and also guys who were fan favorites in Kunle Dadaluke and Thomas Merjaguer. And the loss of Thomas Merjaguer is the biggest one in this offseason for me, as Thomas Merjaguer is a big commanding center half with loads of experience, and these 2 players have won the Canadian Premier League with Pacific FC. They know what it takes to win the league. They're fan favorites, and they bring true leadership into the locker room. And it takes a lot to replace someone like Thomas Merjaguer. It is a huge loss and a huge blow. It's not easy to come by center halves in the world of football these days, especially one with so much experience, leadership, and winning mentality. And it will be a big loss and very interesting to see how James Merriman is able to cope with losing 3 of his pivotal back five from 2024. But moving on to the midfield and the forward line. As yes, they've lost Stephen Yates and Cedric Toussaint, as well as other depth players. Those are still two big losses for this Pacific FC side. Two players, like I say, with experience and with leadership. But up front is what scares me. Yes, we know in 2024, Pacific were not able to score goals or do it at any consistent sort of rate. But they've let go a lot of forwards, a lot of attackers, and we know they didn't score well in the previous season. But that could simply be down to it just not clicking. In 2025, things could change, and they've let go a lot of players in this league who have proven that they can score goals. It just didn't work in 2024. So if these players can go off and score goals somewhere elsewhere, it'll be very interesting for Pacific FC because they've lost a lot of proven goal scorers and experience in the CPL. In Moses Dyer, in Rion Moore, in Devin O'Hay, as well as Adonijah Reed and Ayman Salouf. This is a big offseason with a lot of players they lost, especially Devin O'Hay, Adonijah Reed, Ayman Salouf, Moses Dyer. It is some big names. It is some proven goal scorers. And yes, they didn't score last season, but you never know what a year can do to a footballer and change the scenery. So it'll be very interesting to see what those players go to do with other clubs in the CPL or even abroad for some of them. And looking at the additions, it's very exciting as well. There's still some key additions and some very exciting players coming into Pacific FC. There's still some reason to be excited for Pacific because they still kept a lot of players, and like says Sean Young. They still have James Merriman, and they've brought some players in and some very exciting players in. Yes, they lost a young goalkeeper, Emil Gazdov, but they replaced him with Max Anker, a young Canadian goalkeeper with experience with Vancouver Whitecaps too, loads of experience with them, and he joins them on loan to look to battle for the number one spot. In the back line, you bring in Caden Chung, who has that winning experience from Pacific FC when they won the season as well as Pedro Machado and Finn Tugwell. Moving into the midfield, it's a very exciting two signings with Matteo Schiavone as well as a big one in Aiden Daniels, who brings goals from the midfield. So that'll be a huge move and boost in confidence. But the two signings that I am very excited for are Marco Bustos, who comes into the league, who won the league with them, who brings in so much experience, who had years in Sweden, who didn't just click and it didn't work for him abroad, returns to the Pacific FC, returns to the club he knows very well, and him and Caden Chung replace some of that leadership that they lost, and hopefully can bring them back to where they were. And Ronan Krat, a young Canadian dual national striker, moved from the CPL to European football, returns and joins Pacific FC. If he can restart, kick his career off at Pacific FC, and Ronan Krat and Marco Bustos can score goals, this team could be completely fine and could prove me wrong, and I'd absolutely love to see this team prove me wrong because they still have goals up front. Dario Zanata is still there, their leading goal scorer from last year. You have Josh Hurd, the captain, who's still only 30 years old. You have Ronan Krat now, a 21-year-old Canadian. You have Marco Bustos, a 28-year-old. You have goals from the midfield in Aiden Daniels, Matteo Schiavone, Sean Young. It's a very good midfield, as well as Ali and Dom. And then the back line is what scares me for this team. And I did say that. I know goals scared me in 2024, but I think it'll be the complete opposite in 2025. And we'll see a refreshed, rejuvenated, and goal-scoring Pacific side. I just don't have enough confidence in that back five. But I think my standout player for them, I could say Sean Young and be boring, but I'm going to go with an exciting one and say it's going to be Marco Bustos. Comes back in the league, lights it up on fire, shows he hasn't lost it after a few stale stints in European football, and comes back to the CPL, to Pacific FC, and rejuvenates them and gets them scoring goals. And my young player, my breakout player, not really a breakout player at this point, but my young Canadian player for Pacific will be Ronan Krat. A 21-year-old Canadian comes back in the league, a huge chance to restart his career. It's a very exciting opportunity. But I do have Pacific FC finishing, unfortunately, quite low down my table, guys. They do worry me this season. I don't believe they have enough to really challenge for the league or even get into the playoffs this year. But James Merriman's an exciting manager. They have a still exciting squad, but the goal scoring might be fine, but that back line does worry me in 2025. So I have Pacific FC finishing in 7th place in the Canadian Premier League in 2025. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Drop a like, hit that sub button, guys, and let's push to 600 subscribers. I'll see you for the next one. Peace.